Alright, now that you're logged in, you must change the portfolio name to the company that you want. So in this case, it's Lola. And then the taxpayer side is Lokshin Online Learning Academy. So you select your company. Then you click on the tax status button on the top menu. And then on the menu that's on the left side, you tick tax compliance and then your compliance profile. And then it will appear. So as you can see that overall compliance status is non-compliant because of submission of returns. And then I'm just opening these, collapsing these tabs. So it says here income tax return 2025 to date, specifically 2025-02. So it says capture and submit outstanding return. So this is a provisional tax return. It's an IRP6 return because it says 02. So it's a second term of the year or part 2 of the year. So what I do then is that I go to the returns menu on the top section and then galanga left, I click returns issued. Then I select the IRP6, the provisional tax return, and then I select the period. So they set there 2025-02 as it shows on our tax compliance status. Then this is the provisional tax work page. So the return is IRP6 or provisional tax that's outstanding. So it's basically a zero return. There's nothing to worry about. I'm just going to be putting down the zeros. So as you can see, it's for this company, it's the second period. Taxpayer estimate, it's 0 because the company is dormant. It did not make any money even in the second term. So there's nothing else really you can fill here, but this is what it looks like basically, the form for IRP06 or the provisional tax return. So once you are satisfied with everything, you just scroll up. You can click save if you want to save it, or just file return, and then it's done. Now let's go back to our tax status and see our tax compliance status with compliance profile here too. Okay, I'm still non-compliant, or the company is still non-compliant. It's submission of returns again. So let's collapse these items and see the specific return that is outstanding. So now it's specific. It says 2024 to date. So it says I must capture and submit an outstanding return for the 2024 financial year. So I go back again to returns on the top menu. On the left hand menu, I click returns issued, and then now I click an income tax return. So ITR 14, ITR 12, and so on. Then I click the year that is outstanding. It's the 2024 year. I click request return. Then the return is here now on this work page, and it shows that it's overdue and for which tax period. A summary of this return. So I click open. Okay, we've basically done this before in terms of a public officer. So you say yes, the public officer is fine, it's selected, and you also say yes here because the public officer, if your public officer has not infringed on those requirements, for the Income Tax Act. Okay, I'll open this return. This is a dormant company return. So this is a basic form wizard for a company or a closed corporation. So as it says, that this page allows the company to customize their ITR 14, so this tax return. So it's a dormant company, and based on the questions and based on the answers of these questions, it will customize that return. So this is a 0 return, and it's a dormant company return. So this is just talking about that registered representative. So let's look at the dormant part now. So you answered the question, is this a dormant company? Yes. Did the company become dormant during the the year of assessment, you say no, because if you say yes, that means that you worked for a couple of months in the year of assessment. So you just say no, you do not become dormant during this year of assessment. Movement in assets is 0. The company is registered for income tax purposes in South Africa, yes. And then how many classes of shares? It's 1 class of shares. Then you click next for the next question in the wizard. So it talks about capital gains or losses. So if your company holds investments and that investment grew in capital or grew in value, then even if it was not trading but it had some money, then you'd say yes. But in this case, this company did not have any investments and there was no capital growth or appreciation of any investments that it held. It did not even hold any investments. So essentially, it's no for everything here. Even on the debt question, it's a no. And then, is this part of a voluntary disclosure program? Is this return part of that? No, it's not part of the VDP program. Special economic zone, is the company a qualifying company? No, it's not a qualifying company according to those special economic zones. And no, there is no deduction in terms of Section 7C in respect of tax that we want to claim for. For customs information, the company is not registered for customs tax purposes, so I say no. If yours is registered, you'd say yes, even if it was dormant. So you continue form, it takes you to the next step essentially. Okay, on this form, it's going to ask us a couple of questions. Is this a return of an agency of a company that is abroad? No, it's not. It's a South African company. So you say no. And then you have to select the industry that your company operates in. When ozaziyo ukuthi usebenza kuphi, agriculture, noma you are in IT or you are in the retail sector, whatever sector you're in, video production, publishing, whatever you are in, you're going to select that. And then please indicate the majority of your income, or it's basically where you reside at or where you do business. So for me, it's KZN, or for this company. And then we skip the tax practitioner details because it's not applicable. So what is the reason for dormancy? In the company got registered. So for my one, it's readiness for a future project because it's Solution Online Learning Academy. It has been building up over the years, so I just have this company so that when I want to launch and sell, it's ready. Is the company carrying on activities of a nominee? No. So these are usually attorneys where they hold email on behalf of people, so they hold money on behalf of certain entities, and they are nominated as presiding officers over those monies. So it's a no for us. Then this is the share register part. This is the confusing part, but if you know how to file your beneficial ownership information with CIPC, this is going to be simple. Again, the description, the shares that you have, it's ordinary shares. That's what it is. Then total number of shares issued in this class. So if you look at your memorandum of incorporation, you should look at that. So the reason why you're seeing this error here is that the total number of shares must be the same as the shares that are held by all of the people who hold shares in this company. So this is why you're seeing this error, because total number of shares that are issued is 100,000, and then there's one holder. All of those shares must be in that person's hands. Any number that is below that 100,000, it will come back as wrong. So the holder of shares, in this case, it's me only. So there's one holder of all of these shares. So again, look at here. If I click, okay, so that holder is an individual. and then the details of that individual. In this case, it is me. So my full names, date of birth, ID number, email address, and then these are the number of shares that is owned by this person. It's all of those issued shares that are owned by me. And then I'll insert my cell phone number. But as you can see, the number of issued shares, it's going to give me that error again on top, because I said number of shares owned is 50,000, and then it gives me that error again. There are 100,000 shares issued, but I say the number of shares owned are 50,000. Then who owns the other 50,000? So this has to correspond with the shares that are issued in the company, and how many shares then are held by that person. So it has to be a sum, which are issued 1,000, for example. Then the number of shares that are owned must also be 1,000. So if there's 2 shareholders, there's 2 people in this company, then you would say 2. If there's 3, you'd say 3. So if I say 2, for example, now it shows that I must put in the details of the second shareholder, that individual, which is Iubani, and then I will put in their personal particulars again. But of course, it's just 1 shareholder. Then there's no space for a second shareholder, as you can see. So be careful of the number of shares owned and the number of shares issued. That must correspond. And you get that information in your memorandum of incorporation, and also that beneficial ownership filing information. So once you are happy with your form and answered the questions on the wizard accordingly, and you filled in yonke into kahle, then you can just check again. But if you are happy with everything, you can file the return or you can save the return. It's up to you. So in this case, I will file the return. So the return has been filed. This 0 return has been filed. So this is basically, I'm opening up assessment notice for this company. So it's going to be 0. I'm not owing anything. Now amount payable to SARS 0. So I'll close this, and then I'll head on over we tax status again to see which is compliant in manje. So on the top right corner, we menu, select to tax status once again. We select tax compliance status on the left menu, and I click on my compliance profile. And then you can see now everything is green. Kuphelele. I'm not owing anything. There's no returns that are outstanding. So at this point, sekuphelele, you filed everything, and you can request your tax compliance status PIN. Hi friend, thanks for watching till the end. If you enjoyed this video or found it useful, please share it with your friends, your family, or anyone you think can use it. Also like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. That helps us grow. Yabonga kakhulu, correct moja.